What's up, guys? Welcome back to Elijah Talks Ball. Sunday, NFL Week 12 is pretty much in the wraps. We got the recap here, fresh and hot, ready for you. We're going to talk about the Niners get blown out by the Green Bay Packers. What does that mean for the rest of their season? Titans and Texans, crazy divisional matchup, as well as the Cowboys and Commanders. Epic fourth quarter. And then, of course, we're going to start with the Eagles and Rams. Coming into this game, we thought there was going to be two playoff teams in this. Clearly only one to take seriously. So before we start, like and subscribe. Comment down below. Let me know. Did your favorite team win? Did your favorite player go off? We're going to give game balls at the end, so stick through with that. And let's start. So, there's about 5 minutes left in the Eagles and the Rams game. Thought I would just jump on here so I can get moving with my night after. Coming into this game, thought we were going to watch two playoff caliber teams going up against each other. And half of that is true. Because the Eagles look dominant tonight. Really, ever since that Cleveland Browns game where it got a little bit weird. And as we've seen over the past few weeks, the Browns probably better than their record just due to the shitty quarterback play they had. Either way, the Eagles have been on a heater, and they have looked like, quite frankly, a top three team. Probably the Bills, the Eagles, and the Lions, you could say, are the best three teams in the NFL right now, and they've played like it tonight. What was special about them in 2022, when they went to the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, is the level of physicality that they displayed every time they got on the field. You couldn't match it with Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata at tackle, Landon Dickerson, Jason Kelce in the middle of that offensive line. And then on defense, you had Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat. Well, we've seen Jason Kelce retire. We've seen Fletcher Cox retire. But what we've also seen is the resurgence of young guys like Cam Jurgens, who's the center now replacing Travis Kelce, Mekhi Becton, the first-round tackle for the Jets a few years back, mountain of a man. I think he's like 6'7", 350 pounds, playing guard, which is hilarious to see. And then on defense, they drafted Jordan Davis. They drafted Nolan Smith. They drafted Jalen Carter. And Jalen Carter, to kind of single him out, has been incredible this season. And he had flashes of that last year, where it's like, is this guy going to win Rookie of the Year? And then he kind of fell off a little bit. And to start the season, he had some ups and downs, but he's really put it together. They hit on Quinion Mitchell. They hit on Cooper DeJean. This Eagles defense, maybe it took a little bit of time for them to get acclimated to Vic Fangio's system, because we remember them for blowing the lead against the Falcons in the beginning of the season, where, you know, you're like, this is a cover four palms defense, and they just gave up a 90-yard game-winning drive. How the hell did that happen? They've really figured it out. They're one of the best defenses in the league at this point in time, and they're clearly playing like it. They have the Rams confused as hell tonight. And maybe not even confused. They're just outmanned. They have been pressuring Matt Stafford on damn near every snap, which now, going back to the the Rams and the Dolphins Monday night game, that offensive line for the Rams, there's a lot of issues on it. And this is coming from a Pats fan who watched Drake May today have to run around more than every running back in the league combined. Matt Stafford is getting pressured way too much. He's a pocket quarterback. He really does not like to move. He can, but he's not going to outrun guys like Nolan Smith and Zach Bond and shit. Even a big guy like Jalen Carter, who we just talked about, he can move. And Jordan Davis, last time I checked, he ran like a 4.7 40 at 320 pounds. If you haven't seen the video, watch it. It's wild. I thought once this team got healthy, talking about the Rams, that they were going to make their push, especially with the Niners not figuring out the Seahawks started hot, but then they went cold. And then the Cardinals, yeah, they've been feisty, but do they have the talent to match this Rams team? You look at it, Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams, on defense. That defensive line, which is still very good, but it's kind of strength for strength going up against that Eagles O-line, and they just have some years on them and kind of outplayed them. Jalen Hurts very smart in the pocket tonight, being patient with his runs. Eagles, they just look like a damn Super Bowl contender tonight. They really do. And the Rams, what do you make of them now? They still have time, and you still believe in Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford, but you're 5-6. Your only hope is to win the division, which is very doable right now because everybody is within a game of each other, but you got to figure out how to protect Matthew Stafford. And Kyron Williams, great running back, got to hold on to the ball. And speaking of great running backs, Saquon is the MVP. There's no doubt about it. Last year, Christian McCaffrey, I think if he finished those final couple games strong, there was a case where you said, if you took him off this team, would they be as good as they are? And obviously, Lamar is incredibly important, but he did not have that great of a year last year, and he won the MVP. He's already having a better year this year, and we're only in week 12. We still have 6 weeks of the season left, and he's already had a better season. Well, this year, we haven't had quarterback play. Besides Joe Burrow, I would say, has been hands down the best quarterback. He's been elite. But Saquon, if you took Saquon off this team and put him on any other team, the Eagles are 8-2, 9-2 after tonight. What's their record? 4-6, 5-5? I mean, he has been that good this season coming out of half. You had a chance. The Rams were like, okay, we make a stop here. We go down. We're winning this game. First play of the second half, 70-yard touchdown run. He's just incredible. In every game, it seems like he gives us another highlight, big play, critical situation where, yeah, they needed a touchdown here, and he just breaks multiple tackles. Needed a first down. He gets it done. To me, he's the MVP. He's already over 1,300 yards. I think he has over 10 touchdowns total, so you'd like to see that number get up a little bit, but we got to stop this QB bias. And I get it. QB is the most important position on the field, but it's the most valuable player. And Saquon, to me, has been the most valuable player on this Eagles team. And when you take each team, is there a player that has played as good and is as valuable to their team? Because, yes, Mahomes is valuable to the Chiefs. Allen is valuable to the Chiefs. If you took them, they'd be shitty. But have they had the level of year that Saquon is having? No. So to me, right now, if the season ended, he's got to be the MVP. He's the best player on the field every time he steps on it. And he looks good in the Eagles uniform. Sucks for Giants fans. I'm sure that they're pissed off every time the Eagles play, especially in prime time, just to rub it in their face a little bit. So, Eagles scored again. It's now 37-14. Could have been Saquon. Maybe I, do a little bit of pixie dust on it. And he's like, yeah, I'm gonna run it in for Elijah. Shout out Elijah Talks Ball. That'd be cool. All right. Starting with the first 1 o'clock game. We're going to move through them all. And then we're going to give out game balls. So, Titans and Texans. I picked up the Texans defense this week because, one, they're playing the Titans. Titans are not that good. Two, the Texans defense, while the offense has struggled, defense has been pretty good. And three, playing Will Levis, who is a pick six machine. Well, guess what happened? The defense did get me points because they had a pick six. But the Titans upset the Texans 32-27. What is wrong with Houston right now? I mean, is it cliche to say Houston, we have a problem? Because they definitely do. They've lost 4 out of their last 6 after starting the season. Let's see. 5-2. There we go. Mental math. Started the season 5-2. Now they're 5-1. Now they're 7-5. Goodness gracious. Their offense has been terrible. And CJ Stroud, yes, he was without Nico Collins, and then Stephon Diggs went out, but they still got Dalton Schultz. They still got Tank Dell, who's his best friend. They had Stephon for a little bit once Nico went down. Joe Mixon is having an incredible year, but something is not right with CJ Stroud, and he's getting a lot of pressure, yes, and that is a quarterback's least favorite thing, but something just doesn't look right, and you wonder, did teams catch on to Bobby Slowick's offense, CJ Stroud's tendencies, and is he in his head? You know, 3-point shooters, once they get kind of in their head, same with golfers, start bouncing shots and slicing balls. Is CJ Stroud kind of there getting happy feet and not stepping back and just drilling a seed over the middle? He had the last play of the game, pretty much, where, you know, they were backed up all the way to the goal line and he ran out of bounds, Dan Orlovsky style, for the safety, and they ended up losing the game. Which, you know, they could have tied it with Kaimi Fairbairn, who's been a money kicker this year, and he shanks it with about a minute left. That really hurt them. But Titans, man, they came out to play today. And when they played the Patriots, I was like, all right, this team seems like a team that's better than their record. Not to say that they're loaded, but their defense is very good. Offensively, you had D-Hop, but you still got Calvin Ridley. You have Tony Pollard, Tyjae Spears, Chigakonkwo. You have a good left side of your offensive line. Will Levis is really starting to figure it out. He's put a couple good games back to back. He had some self-deprecating humor where they asked him, what's been going right for you? And he's like, well, I haven't thrown the ball underhand lately, so that's good. He just wants to play hero ball, and he's trying to make a play, but sometimes you just got to take the sack or throw it out of bounds. He started to figure it out a little bit. And they, you know, took him in the second round last year, kind of as a shot, so to speak. But there was a lot of hype about him being a first-round pick. And his third year at Kentucky, people thought he was going to be the first overall pick. Then his offensive coordinator leaves. He struggles. Teams thought he was a little bit cocky. Still big arm, strong dude. Puts mayo in his coffee. Probably why. He's played good. And similar to Bryce Young, who we'll talk about next, I think these guys are earning themselves an extra year because you don't want to be in the quarterback fish tank where you're just swimming around looking for your next bite. If you think you've got a guy, ride it out, build around him, because what happens if it doesn't work out? Well, you've built your team, and then you just go get a young guy you think is going to be the guy. And you still have that team. So, plus, this year in the draft, what are we doing for quarterbacks? We'll talk about that later in the video a little bit, but Will Levis playing pretty damn good. Moving on, Chiefs and Panthers. This game re-solidified that there's something wrong with the oh my gosh. I'm going to start this whole conversation over right here. Chiefs versus Panthers. This game solidified that there is something wrong with the Chiefs. You should not be in a game that comes down to the final seconds with the Panthers. They are not good. They have played better, but the Chiefs, we're talking about them like winning another Super Bowl for the third straight year. They're 9-1 going into this game, and they have to kick a game-winning field goal against the Panthers? What are we doing? And Mahomes played pretty damn good. But Bryce Young was carving up that defense. You know, we talk about this defense like it's the 2000 Ravens. Past 2 weeks, they've kind of gotten gashed. You know, you let a 5'9", 180-pound quarterback throw for 250 yards and a couple touchdowns, no turnovers. He lost his best tight end damn near halfway through the game. Something's not right with the Chiefs. And you can't put your finger on it because they keep winning these games, but you just wonder, are they going to get exposed in the playoffs? And this is reminding me a lot of that Patriots team, Tom Brady's last year. They started the season 8-0, then they lost, and they won again, and they were 9-1. They finished it 12-4, and it got bounced in the first year against the Titans in Tom Brady's last Patriots game. That's kind of what this Chiefs team feels like. And Chiefs fans, I know that probably annoys you to say, well, we're winning. That's all that really matters. And yeah, it is all that really matters. But you're beating a team like the Panthers on a last-second field goal. You have to block the game-winning field goal against the Broncos in Kansas City. And then you play a real team like the Buffalo Bills and, you get beat by 2 scores. So something's not right. And the identity or the aura of this team doesn't feel quite right. Now, listen, they could prove everybody wrong and go do it, but I got to see more from them. But who I'm seeing more from right now is Bryce Young. He's 2-2 since coming back from being benched. They're on a pretty good little run here with quarterback play. I mean, he's starting to hit Xavier Legette, Jalen Coker. He had Jatavion Sanders thrown to, all rookies. Chuba Hubbard got his extension. He's been running lights out. Is Bryce Young going to be back next year? Because I'll tell you, after week 2 at the beginning of the season, you would have thought, hell no, you'd have bet everything against it. But now it feels like he took a break. He's starting to understand the game and the speed a little bit better. He took a deep breath. I think you got to give him another year. It's not like this guy was a 4th-round pick. He was your first pick last year. And he's shown that, yeah, he can play pretty good. So keep building around him. Maybe get some smaller offensive linemen. No, just being funny. But Bryce Young, looking pretty good. Moving on, we got the Vikings and the Bears. This one went to overtime. The Vikings pull it off. Unfortunately for Caleb Williams, they lost because this was his best game as a pro. 340 yards, 2 touchdowns, added 33 yards on the ground. An incredible day against a tough Brian Flores-led Vikings defense. Sam Darnold, like we said last week, starting to get hot. 330 yards and 2 touchdowns. So quarterbacks pretty much had identical days. Jordan Addison, massive day. But to me, the play of the day was Caleb Williams. With 20 seconds left in the game, they needed to get in field goal range. And he threw a seed 20 yards down the field to DJ Moore right over the linebacker. It was an NFL throw at its finest in the biggest moment of the game. Gets up, spike it, they kick the game-time field goal, go to overtime. Great moment. Even though you lost as a Bears fan, you feel good about that. You say, okay, this guy can play. You want to see signs. And with everything that happened over the past month, you're starting to get really bummed out. But he's fought back. And sometimes we put unrealistic expectations for these rookie quarterbacks. Like, can we take a minute and just let these guys kind of play? I mean, shit. Caleb Williams is in game number 11 or 12. We don't know what he's going to be to the end of next year. It took Alex Smith like 5 years to kind of figure it out. And he ended up leading the Chiefs to multiple playoff berths. Countless other players. I can't think of one off the top of the head, but it takes some time. So Caleb Williams is showing it. The Vikings, 9-2. Hell of a win. You got to string them together just like the Chiefs. Although I like what I've seen out of the Vikings. I believe in the Chiefs more, but I like what I've seen out of the Vikings more. 9-2. Feeling good. Lions and Colts. Anytime a team puts up a 50 burger, you get a little bit concerned of how they're going to play the next week. Especially a team like the Colts where, do you take them that seriously? No. Could they beat you? Yeah. They beat the Jets last week, and the Jets were supposed to win the Super Bowl this year. They've put up 250 burgers and 240 burgers this year, and they come out, and they don't even let the Colts score a touchdown. 24-6 was the final. David Montgomery left the game early with a shoulder injury, but Jahmyr Gibbs shouldered the load. He was outstanding. That defense is playing, man. And after we saw Anthony Richardson have a pretty promising game last week against the Jets, he looked a little bit flustered. I'll tell you what the Colts need to do for the rest of the season, and they know this. They need to play from ahead. They have Jonathan Taylor and Anthony Richardson, probably the most dynamic backfield in the NFL. If you took Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry and shipped them to Canada, they can't be airing the ball out to try to get back in the game. Anthony Richardson is just not built like that. He's not going to pick you apart over the middle. He's going to make these massive splash plays off of play action where defense comes up. You got a guy running wide open down the field. He can hit it at any angle. He missed a deep one today as he was getting pressure, which, you don't think the Colts are going to give up pressure. They got a pretty good offensive line, but missed it by that much. They're just going to have to play from ahead. And so that Colts defense, maybe go defense in the draft, try to maybe bring Eberflus back because he's probably going to get fired from the Bears. He had that defense playing pretty good. They got a good couple linebackers. EJ Speed, Zaire Franklin, having really, really good years. There's some pieces to like on the defensive side of the ball, but you can't be, giving up points early and then trying to throw your way back into this game because that's not what AR is about. And for the Lions, it's easier said than done as well because you're playing the best offense in the league. I mean, it felt like the Lions weren't even on it today and they won 24-6 against a team that's fighting for a playoff spot. So this Lions team, we don't really have to continue to talk about them that much. They're making the playoffs and they're going to be in the NFC Championship game for the second year in a row, which if you'd have told us when Dan Campbell got hired that 3 years into his tenure, he would have the Lions in back-to-back NFC Championship games with Jared Goff playing at an MVP level, we would have thought you're fucking crazy. But that's what's happening. They've done an incredible job building this team, setting this culture. How can you not root for them? I definitely am. Next up, the one that hurts the most, Patriots and Dolphins. Patriots get their shit kicked in. Yeah, I should have probably just stayed on the toilet this morning because that's what ended up happening for the rest of the game. I was watching a toilet experience. 31-0 at one point in this game. We missed a field goal in the beginning. And I'll tell you what, the Patriots, they come out at times looking good. And then it all just falls apart. I mean, we had a chance to go up 3-0, and Drake was driving us both times. But first series, we had 2 false starts. Then we had a holding the next drive with another false start, an illegal formation or something like that. Drake was under pressure all damn day. We keep shooting ourselves in the foot. And Drake May is going to be a stud. Everybody knows it. Everybody sees it. We have just got to protect him and make plays. Pop made a nice one-handed catch kind of later in the game. And when you watch these teams play, what's the difference between having a good season and a great season as a quarterback? Sometimes it's just your guys making the tough catch. We saw Michael Penix last year at Washington. His guys made incredible plays. If he doesn't, we even talking about him that he's that good of a quarterback? Your guys got to make good plays for you. Obviously, give him a good ball most of the time. But for Drake, I feel like, man, it's rare that he's off. You just got to get these guys to stop committing penalties, to just figure out how to block for longer than a second and a half. And then when the ball's thrown to you, even if it's tough, adjust, make a catch, make a play. Because the offense, to me, is making a lot of progress. We just got to stop shooting ourselves in the foot. Defensively, we might need a defensive coordinator change. It's been dog shit. It really has been bad. Bill Belichick, obviously, we're going to have a better defense with him at head coach. When we've lost Bentley, we were without Barmore for a while. We lost Peppers. We were without Duggar for a while. We traded Judon. So, yeah, we took a step back talent-wise. But we have been getting gashed. And today, Tua just went off. We couldn't stop anything. They took him out of the game in the fourth quarter. And then we forced a fumble. Or really, Jalen Wright just dropped the ball on a handoff. And Christian Gonzalez picked it up, went 63 yards to make it a 2-possession game because we got this the 2-point conversion on a pretty nice little hook and ladder screen bubble play, which shout out AVP. That was a nice little play call, but Tua had to come back in. And guess what happened when he came back in? We didn't get a stop. It's just embarrassing at this point. And the Dolphins, don't look down, but they're on a heater. They really are. Since Tua came back, they're 3-2. And the 2 games that they lost were the first 2 when he came back. One was a 61-yard game-winning field goal, and the other was high 40-yard field goal for the win as time expired. So really, they've been in all these games. You're looking at 5-0 since he came back. If it wasn't for 2 really nice kicks, Dolphins are rolling. And yeah, the Chiefs, which we'll talk about, or excuse me, the Broncos we'll talk about in probably about 10 minutes. Dolphins are fighting for that 7 seed. I mean, Dolphins, Chiefs, and Bengals. You know, you got to think that Dolphins, they look good. That defense, like I said a couple weeks ago, they got a physicality on it that I haven't seen in past couple years. And now they play Thursday night against the Packers on Thanksgiving in Lambeau. Can the Finns go to the cold area and get a big win? That's been the narrative. This team doesn't win the big games, and it doesn't play well in cold weather. Well, now you get 2-1 situation. Can you stone the bird? Next up, we got Bucks and Giants. Similar to the Patriots, Dolphins. Bucks beat the shit out of the Giants. Giants, Patriots are in a race for the first overall pick. The Travis Hunter sweepstakes. Baker is having a career year, and I don't think we're talking about it enough because the Bucks have lost some really tough, close games. They just had a crazy tough schedule for the past 5 weeks. But now they got Mike Evans back. Baker's thrown 2,800 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 9 picks. He's having a hell of a year. And with the Falcons struggling, the Bucks are 1 game out of getting back to 500. It hurts that they lost both games to the Falcons, but I still think they're a better team than the Falcons, so just keep winning. They have an ice cream Sunday schedule coming up for the rest of the season. Only tough game is the Chargers, which you're going to have to win a tough game. You got to win that one, but I mean, you play teams like the Raiders, they play the Panthers, they play the Saints. Like, they have really winnable games coming up. Can they sneak it out? And for the Giants, they're in full tank mode, obviously starting Tommy DeVito, cutting Daniel Jones. Malik Neighbors was pissed saying, it ain't the quarterback's fault. We're soft. It's kind of the quarterback's fault, though. But who are you tanking for? That's the thing. I don't see it with Shedeur Sanders. I don't think he's bad. I don't see it with Quinn Ewers. As you probably know if you watched the other video that I put out on Saturday morning. Jalen Milroe needs another year at least. Cam Ward, I would lean Cam Ward out of anybody because he can really spin it. And he does play a little bit of hero ball, but with Shedeur, I mean, he takes the worst sacks I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, I've never seen a player consistently on critical downs run around instead of just getting the ball out on a 3rd and 2, run around the backfield for 6 seconds and get sacked for a 20-yard loss. I mean, he's knocked them out of field goal range multiple times. I don't know how it's still a thing. If I was a coach, if it happened one time, I'd be like, we can't do this again. And if he does it again, like, grab some bench, tell me how it feels to sit on that fucking piece of metal when it's really cold out. Yeah, it's not nice. Well, then get back in the game and stop doing that shit. So, not quite sure the Giants plan. They're kind of in no man's land because they have a team that can play, but, you know, with people saying last year, oh, Patriots should draft Joe Walt or Brock Bowers or Marvin Harrison and then get the quarterback next year. I'm like, what quarterback, bro? We don't know. We know that there's 3 really good prospects at the top of this draft this year. We're going to get one of them. And the guy we think is the best and has played incredible. Now this year, teams are saying, is there even going to be 1 or 2 quarterbacks taken in the first round, let alone the top 10? So, Giants kind of in no man's land here. Feel for you. Final 1 o'clock game, we got the Cowboys and the Commanders. This was the craziest 4th quarter that I've seen since the Bills and Chiefs. So, I'm watching the screen. I got it on the 4 view because I got the Chiefs, the Patriots, and then I think it was like the Vikings or somebody. But the Patriots were getting blown out, so I wanted my girlfriend to be able to watch the Chiefs a little bit, not be selfish. I just happened to look up in the top left, which was where the Commanders and Cowboys game was, and I see Kevontae Turpin drop the kickoff. It goes kind of right through his legs, picks it up. I'm like, oh shit, what is he going to do here? He does this Madden-esque, like, juke spin move, the quickest spin I've ever seen, and then just takes off like a fucking jet. I mean, he looked like when you're playing Mario Kart and you hit those turbo patches and you just, like, fly rockets out of the back of your car. That's exactly what it was like. All the way to the house. Makes it a 7-point game. You know, I think it was tied at the time. And then the next play, they come back. Jaden Daniels. Cowboys forgot how to play defense. They throw it for an 86-yard touchdown to tie the game, potentially. But then the kicker misses the extra point. So that really broke them. But then, kicking the onside kick, the Cowboys took it to the house. And then they got a chance to throw another Hail Mary, which we saw what happened with the Bears and them. And it ended up getting picked off. But just a wild ride in those final few minutes. Kevontae Turpin reminds me every time, can we just go back to the old days with the old kickoff rules where you kicked it off from 30, the guys were running down, it was a nice kind of like way to start the game, it felt traditional, and it really mattered for you to have an electric player that you would pay an extra couple million to keep on your team. Instead of just throwing it at a backup offensive lineman, he said, I'm going to spend the extra $4 million a year to keep Devin Hester back here returning kicks because at any moment he can break one. He's the best returner in the league, Kevontae Turpin. If you haven't watched him and you didn't see that play, you got to watch it. Commanders are on a 3-game losing streak after starting 7-2. Jaden Daniels looked a little healthier today. I think we got a little bit excited, obviously, when they got off to that start, and we're saying, all right, is Jaden Daniels one of the best players in the league? And he's been damn good. But we saw this with Cliff Kingsbury multiple times. With Kyler Murray, they get off to these hot starts, and they kind of level out. This team, realistically, is a year or two away. They just don't have the talent right now. They have great coaching. We can all agree on that. But I think, sometimes you get a little over your skis when a team starts 7-2. It's like, all right, let's take a breath. They don't have a lot going on the roster. Their main goal this year was say, did we have the right quarterback and did we have the right coach? And they've answered that with an astounding yes in each category. 7-4. They're still fighting for a playoff spot. And they're in the driver's seat. So even though they've lost, 7-5, even though they lost 3 in a row, season ends today, they're still in the playoffs. So good season, just got to get back in the win column. Moving on to the 4 o'clock games. Broncos and the Raiders. Speaking of Rookie of the Year, Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix is solidifying that honor. Obviously, you'll nominate Brock Bowers on the Raiders and Jaden Daniels. But Bo Nix is having an incredible year. Another great game. 260 yards, 2 touchdowns. He just looks in complete command of that offense. I dropped Zay Flowers this week. Added Cortland Sutton. Almost 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. Kind of one of the more underrated receivers in the league. Always makes the tough catches. It's not a 50-50 ball. It's an 80-20 ball. Bo Nix, how did we not see this coming? I kind of did in a way. Not obviously this good, but I thought that it was a good pick. Pairing him with Sean Payton, who was incredibly successful with Drew Brees. And we always talk about it. It's so important, not only what is around the quarterback personnel-wise, but who's the coach? And Sean Payton, one of the best offensive minds in the NFL of all time, has been doing a great job with Bo Nix. We wanted to write him off at the beginning of the season, but they started their season with playing in Seattle against a healthy Mike McDonald defense, and he had that Ravens team last year playing lights out. And then they played the Steelers. It's like, man, Those are two really tough games to start your season with. And since then, every week, same with Drake May, you're just seeing this leaps and bounds of understanding the game better, playing within themselves, making a smart move. Bo Nix hasn't been turning the ball over. Drake has some issues with fumbles. It's hard to not fumble when you're about to throw in your offensive line on a half a second slant route, lets a stunt go right up the middle and drill you 300 pounds of fucking meat landing on you. I'd fumble it too. So, they got to work on that. But Bo Nix done a great job not turning the ball over. Look out. This Broncos team is doing the most with the less. Wow. The most with the least. Get a couple of Sean Payton drafts in there. You're looking at this squad once they get rid of that dead cap money from Russell Wilson. That AFC West. Harbaugh, Payton, and Reed? What the fuck are the Raiders going to do? It's not a good sign when your best pass play of the game, a 34-yard catch and run, was a fake punt by your punter. And that's what happened. Gardner Minshew left the game with a broken collarbone. I feel you. I broke my collarbone. Doesn't feel good. Desmond Ridder came in. Looked like Desmond Ridder. Best pass play of the game, A.J. Cole. They're in the same bucket as the Giants, and it is a bucket with a lot of shit stains on it. What are you going to do? We already talked about it. Is there two QBs even going in the first round this year? Probably, because of QB inflation. But the Giants and the Raiders are the two teams that need them the most. 49ers and Packers. Packers kicked the shit out of the Niners. Niners were without Brock Purdy, so that's to be expected. But another free agent running back to tally into Aaron Jones, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley. Joe Mixon was traded to the Texans. Josh Jacobs is having a career year, already over 900 yards, has 7 touchdowns on the ground. He has been dynamic and added a physicality to that team that maybe they haven't had probably since Eddie Lacy. But you got to think, the Green Bay Packers, this isn't an indoor team. This isn't, Miami, where it's nice all year long. We're going to start getting into these cold weather, shitty weather games. They already had one against the Lions. They need a fucking running game. And they've got it with Josh Jacobs. So he's having a great year and was pretty much the only reason, or not the only reason, but he was the main reason that the Packers mushroom stamped the Niners, which, what are the Niners going to do now? Because they play Buffalo next week. They got to play the Lions. They're 1-3 in the division, so they still got some tough divisional games coming up. It's not looking good for the Niners. Brock Purdy isn't healthy. Nick Bosa missed the game. Trent Williams was out. Debo looks a step slower. Kittle's been banged up. Can this team limp, ironically speaking, into the playoffs? Possibly. That division is pretty weak, but just doesn't feel like their year. And it feels like since Shanahan took over, this team has those years where they're just snake bitten by injuries. And this clearly seems like one. So, they're about to cross the train tracks with, Purdy's contract. They got some aging veterans. Obviously, Ayuk went down, but all this money is going to start kicking in, and now you got to pay the quarterback or not. I'm not quite sure what they're going to do, but Brock has shown he can play. The Niners are not really in a good spot right now. And for losing 2 Super Bowls and getting to the NFC Championship every year for the past 3 years, and you just haven't taken home the Lombardi. The Chiefs, they can go through the struggle. They've won it. The Niners, it's a lot more sour. So, yeah, not quite sure where the Niners go from here. I'm still not writing them off. They have championship pedigree all throughout that locker room. You figure they're going to eventually, but we saw this with the Eagles. With the Eagles and Andy Reid. He had that team winning every single year. And eventually the wheels fell off the bus, and he went to Kansas City. Maybe we'll see something like that with Kyle Shanahan. Who knows? Next up, Cardinals Packers. Last game we're going to talk about before the game balls. Did I say Cardinals Packers? Because I meant Cardinals Seahawks. Hawks defense, man, making critical plays. Seahawks won this game 16-6. And to hold the Cardinals with Marvin Harrison, James Conner, and Kyler Murray to 6 points, that's a damn good job. Trey McBride on the Cardinals, he was the lone bright spot. 12 catches, 133 yards. Is he the new best tight end? Last year we were talking about Sam Laporta. He's the best tight end in the league this year. But obviously, you still had Kelsey, you still had Kittle, Mark Andrews. Tight end play, besides Brock Bowers, has there been a better tight end than Trey McBride? And you could argue Trey McBride's been as good. Are those the two best tight ends in the league right now? Is it kind of a changing of the guard from Kelsey and Andrews and Kittle to now Trey McBride, Brock Bowers, and Sam Laporta? Possibly. My dog is whining. He probably wants some food. So, Seahawks get a big win. Geno Smith has an efficient game. Jackson Smith and Jigba starting to really come along here. That offense has a lot of weapons, man. So, you got to think they'll be in the quarterback market to upgrade, but will there be an upgradable QB this offseason? I mean, ride it out with Geno. He has these games where it's like, yeah, that's a top 5, top 10 guy. And then he has these games where it's like, yeah, nope, that guy wouldn't start on my Pop Warner team. So, Seahawks, they're first right now, 6-5. They started 3-0. Then they went 0-3. And then they just kind of went back and forth to get to 5-5. They win this game now. They're 6-5. So they're in the driver's seat for the rest of the season in that NFC West. They control their destiny. Can they do it? Giving out the game balls. First up, we're going offense, defense, then coach. We got Tua Tagovailoa, 317 yards, 4 touchdowns. Not a second in that game where it felt like he wasn't in control. Diced up the Patriots defense. It made it look easy. And when you make it look easy, you get the game ball, and they come out with a big win. But I'm sure he could care less about winning this game. He wants Thursday night against the Packers. Should be a great game. Thanksgiving night. So if you're planning on playing board games, cards, or fucking socializing with friends and family, you better think again. This is going to be a big game. Defense, we got Kobe Bryant, rest in peace. Wrong Kobe, but still, no doubt that man's up in heaven looking down on this Kobe Bryant because 6 tackles, an interception brought it to the house. Huge play in the game against the Cardinals. It was only 10-6 at the time. It was on a 4th down. Kyler lobbed it up. Only needed a couple yards. Just barely overshot him. Took it to the crib. Was the difference in the game. So you make the difference in the game. You get the game ball. Kind of makes sense, right? And for coaches, for winning against the top division in his team, Brian Callahan for the Tennessee Titans gets the huge win against the Texans. Shout out Brian Callahan, man. He has this team playing. I feel like, they played the Bears week 1. They had that game won until Will Levis decided to say, not on my watch. And then they were playing the Jets competitively when the Jets still had a pulse. And they've just kind of lost these close games, minus the game against the Lions. But now they beat the Texans, who were wounded, and they could smell blood in the water, and they went after them. Will Levis had a big game. Shout out Brian Callahan. Shout out Kobe Bryant with a C. And shout out Tua Tagovailoa. You guys get the game balls. Enjoy this breakdown, or I hope you did, since you've already listened to it at this point. Enjoy Monday night, man. The Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh versus John Harbaugh. Chargers, Ravens. Should be a great one. I'm going to go make some spaghetti sauce with some pasta. Eat that, pass out. It's going to be legendary. So enjoy your day, guys. Enjoy the Monday night game, and then stay safe. Peace out.